calls that have been made to delegates of the state Republican Party convention coming up, which Chris Lotto seemed to confirm were made by, on behalf of his campaign, by a vendor. Chris Lotto told the AP, well, there's nothing nefarious there. This is nothing. Now, more than a dozen delegates are saying they were told that these calls were being made on behalf of the Republican Party of Wisconsin. And when pressed, that's what they either said or they hung up. Now, to get the other side of this, joining us now is the campaign manager for Mark Neumann, Chip Englander. Good morning, Chip.
Good morning. How you doing, Jerry?
I'm good. All right. Were these calls made on behalf of the Neumann campaign?
Absolutely, they were. We're making thousands of calls, maybe perhaps tens of thousands of calls to Republicans across the state, trying to get out there, talk to voters, let folks know Neumann's conservative message. And phones are one of many ways we're doing it. And I'll be honest, I'll be pretty surprised if the Scott Walker campaign isn't using the phones as well to try and visit with voters. So, no, absolutely, it's true that we were making phone calls to Republican voters, and we're going to continue to make phone calls.
At any time, did the callers represent themselves as being from the Republican Party of Wisconsin?
Absolutely not. There would be not only were they not introducing themselves as that way, not only were they directly and specifically instructed to identify themselves as part of the Mark Neumann campaign, there would be no advantage to identifying themselves with the Republican Party. I'm a little confused, and I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I have a little hard time getting my head around how I would be advantaging, how the campaign would be helped by lying about who's making the calls. I mean, if you look at the script, there's nothing negative. We're not attacking anyone, Scott or otherwise. We're asking folks if they're delegates, if they're attending. We're letting folks know that there's the St. Norbert poll showed that the race is tied. I mean, if the Walker campaign is going to be this sensitive about a St. Norbert college poll, I'm very nervous about what the reaction is going to be to Tom Barrett.
Every delegate
they're going to be a lot meaner than the St. Norbert poll.
Every delegate is lying who says that the caller represented themselves as being from the Republican Party. Every delegate who's claiming that.
First, we don't have every delegate saying...
every delegate who's making that claim is lying.
Well, my...
Yes or no, Chip? Yes or no? Either they're lying or you're lying.
That is...
Chip,
there's no recorded...
Chip, yes or no? Chip, I want a yes or no answer. Either they're lying or you're lying. Who's lying?
Well, I'm definitely not lying.
So all of those... Your answer then is all those delegates are lying.
Well, that's a harsh word, but I know that's not the truth. Perhaps there's a misunderstanding. All I know is what we instructed the folks making the calls to say, and I know that there would be zero advantage. I mean, look, Jerry, you got me on right now trying to rake me over the coals, saying why were you guys identifying yourselves as a Republican Party? It in no way would advantage us.
Okay, so all right, so then you would have to say they're lying. You were saying all those delegates are lying. All right. Now, in terms of the push-pull question, you would have to admit that is a push-pull question, Chip.
No, when I think of a push-pull question, push-pull is when you're trying to use phones as like a tool of voter contact to persuade people with negative information and things like that. This was simply IDing folks and seeing if when folks heard that the race was tied, how that would impact them. There was nothing negative in there. It didn't say, something nasty about any candidate for anything. I mean, it was just plain, but saying the St. Norbert poll showed that the race is tied, which is true.
Indeed, it is. All right, Chip. I still have Keith on the line. I have the technology to put you both on the same time. Are you comfortable with that?
Absolutely.
All right, Jason, can you do that? Tell me when you're set. Keith, are you back?
Yes, I am.
Keith, you can talk directly to Chip. Respond to his explanation.
Well, bottom line is that seems to be a lot of misunderstandings by delegates that receive these phone calls. These are paid callers that are executing a script, and typically, as my experience in politics has been over the decade plus that I've been in Wisconsin politics, is that when you have a vendor doing your phone calls, you check off on the scripts and you make sure that they execute it properly. And one of the it's the one thing that every campaign manager, staffer, printer, TV guy does, is make sure that disclaimer is at the bottom and make sure that people read it correctly, because because it is a statutory requirement, so that there's no questions. You can never doubt that the fact that who paid for this. And I guess, if 40 delegates across the state of Wisconsin all had a similar misunderstanding, they better check into their vendor and see if their vendor is lying to them, or, maybe someone's stretching the truth here.
Chip feels pretty comfortable because there's no recorded evidence of this, that there's no smoking gun.
Well, I also feel pretty comfortable.
Hang on, Chip.
There be no
Keith talk.
to do
into question.
Chip, let Keith talk.
Sure,
go
absolutely.
Ahead.
Chip's calling into question the integrity of 30 to 40 delegates who have all received a similar phone call, and their stories didn't change. And several of these delegates are filing complaints with the Government Accountability Board, attesting to that fact in an official document, saying this is what I was told. Now, if they want to start saying that, the delegates of the convention are lying about what they heard and what their conversations was, that's fine. But I don't think that 40 different delegates from all across the entire state with the same complaint can be wrong. And I made no concession whatsoever on whether this is a misunderstanding or not. This is upon the Neumann campaign to correct and fix, and they're going to have to talk to the Government Accountability Board about it, because under state statute, they have to make sure that their vendors or their representatives of their campaign have to clearly state who or what is paying for these phone calls through that disclaimer.
Chip, go ahead.
Well, I think that I think there's a larger concern to me about this, in politics, and we see Democrats doing this all the time, which is the use of courts and government accountability boards to try and achieve their political purpose. I mean, the reality is we have an election on September 14, and an election in November, and we should let voters decide this, not try and involve some, unelected bodies to get in. I mean, that the Walker campaign is this sensitive over a positive phone call that's concerning to me, because it's going to get the Democrats aren't going to be this generous.
All right, Chip. Earlier in this campaign, did Mark Neumann ever personally suggest to somebody that Scott Walker was pulling out of this campaign?
Not that I've heard.
I have heard that. You're saying that's not true.
I'm saying that I have not heard that. If you're referring to those earlier stupid emails from I don't know when that was, 6 weeks ago, a month ago, which was completely idiotic, and I agree with you that was dopey. If you're asking about that, yeah, I'm aware
I
of
didn't
that.
say it was dopey. I didn't say it was dopey. Keith?
Well, the truth is that there is an actual email from a state reporter that covered the Capitol beat that contacted us after he had a phone conversation with the candidate himself, Mark Neumann, that said, I heard a rumor that Scott Walker's dropping out of the governor's race to run for U.S. Senate. And that was when I think a lot of people got a response back from our team, which said that there should be mandatory drug testing for candidates who come up with these weird rumors and ideas about what is not happening with Scott Walker. Scott Walker is committed to running in this race, has been since he made his announcement back in April, and has been touring the state from Kenosha to Superior down to Grant County and Platteville up to Green Bay, and he made his kickoff announcement. He's committed to this race. Everyone knows that, but it's these type of tactics that really have no place. We're focused on driving the message for Scott Walker and what his vision is for Wisconsin, if given the honor of being its governor, and that's what we've been focused on, and contrasting ourselves with Tom Barrett. And what we've seen so far out of the Neumann campaign is a lot of interesting tactics that really have no place here. And I think the delegates of the convention are rejecting it and are very upset about how they've been treated during this past weekend with these phone calls.
All right, we're going to go just a little overtime here, Jace. All right, Chip, are you saying that the reporter for the State Journal is lying when he says Mark Neumann said that to him?
Well, I'm definitely not saying that. I'm saying I was not part of that conversation. Okay. I will